What's up, everybody? It's Auburn versus Georgia, the sequel this season. Can Auburn get the sweep against the Dogs? Let's talk about it right here inside the town.
The Auburn Express. You are now listening to the War Report Longtown Podcast with your boy Ike Jones.
What's up in War Eagle? Right here, the Lob Town Podcast, a part of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We are in here talking Auburn versus Georgia, going down inside of Neville Arena this time. If you are new here, make sure that you are subscribing to the channel. Go ahead and share the content as you get in here with somebody and let them be a part of the conversation. Auburn coming into this game looking good, but not great, right? Like, 24-2 on the season, 12-1 in conference. The record looks good, but there are some things that we talked about recently that are of concern for Auburn, especially when you're going against some of these great defensive teams that Auburn's going to be facing down the stretch. Georgia is one of them. Listen, this game happened once already with Auburn coming out with the victory, Georgia versus Auburn, 70-68. Auburn with the narrow victory there in Stegman Arena inside of in Athens, Georgia. But Auburn going to be back at home this time. And listen, Neville Arena hasn't been this place of horrors for teams this season. They've already lost one game to Florida, and they've had a couple of close games with Tennessee, and then the loss there again to Florida, and the recent game there against Arkansas, which was too close for a lot of Auburn fans, definitely under what a lot of people predicted. So this hasn't been a place where Auburn's just been mopping teams. Now, they've played well at home. Don't get me wrong. They've got the win versus Missouri that was at home. The home win versus Mississippi State, they did well in that game, but hasn't really been that sort of runaway victory type of thing. So this is an opportunity for Auburn to kind of get people back into that place of thinking, okay, Auburn can be the dominant team again. But it's not going to be easy versus a Georgia team that plays defense really well. A Georgia team that is coming off of a week of rest, right? Georgia's had a full week. They had their break late in the season, so they're getting an opportunity to rest and recuperate a little bit. Question is that going to be of benefit to Georgia, where they're going to come in rusty? It's not a good offensive team for Georgia. So are they going to be rusty offensively? They're going to be rested, but are they going to be rusty? When you go back and you look at the previous game, though, and a game that Auburn narrowly won, things that are going to be different this time around. Johni Broome is going to be playing in this game. He did not make the trip, or he made the trip to Athens, I should say, but did not play versus Georgia in that last game. And Auburn was shorthanded there on the interior against a team in Georgia that has physicality on the interior, bigs that can go and they can bother you, and they play physical and rebound well. Is Johni Broome going to be a difference to make it where, you're at home and you're going to have Johni Broome back? Can you make that more than a 2-point victory this time? Yet to be seen. If you recall in that game as well, Dylan Cardwell was hampered in that game, had limited minutes because he was dealing with a lower leg injury that has limited his minutes really since then, since that Georgia game. So is he going to be more of a factor in this game now that he's got his front court mate there in Johni Broome to take some of those minutes? You got some good, effective, not going to show on the stat sheet, but effective minutes from Turtle in that game, from Jaheim Hudson being able to play. But now you've got Johni Broome back in the fold. Also, if you recall, Chaney Johnson did not have a good game in that first game versus Georgia. He struggled against the length of Georgia trying to score on the interior. Now, of late, Chaney Johnson been playing a lot better. He's been playing against more physical length there on the interior and still being able to contribute in a good way. Is a new revamped Chaney Johnson going to pay better dividends for Auburn in this game? Auburn made 12 3-point shots in that first game versus Georgia. Has not shot the ball that well, that effectively since then, really. Can Auburn find a 3-point stroke again? Denver Jones didn't have a great game. Actually, though Tahad Pettiford scored a lot in that game, the front court had a lot of turnovers in that game. You recall, like, Tahai got ripped like in the back court during that game. Can the Auburn guards do a better job of taking care of the basketball against a very pesky Georgia defense? Those are the things that you're going to need to look out for in this game, as far as what can be differences for Auburn in this one to extend this streak that they have going on. Georgia is a team coming in, has not won a single road game in the SEC so far this season. Now, they had a home winning streak going when Auburn came into town, and Auburn broke that streak. They're going to look to try to do a reverse situation here and break their road losing streak in the SEC, because Georgia has not, so far on the season, they are 4-9, and they have not won a single game again on the road in the SEC. When you look at the road matchups for Georgia, they lost to Ole Miss on the road 63-51. They lost to Tennessee on the road 74-56. Got absolutely mopped by Tennessee there inside of and in Knoxville. Arkansas beat them by 3 on the road there in Arkansas. Florida won their game against them, by 30, 59 to 50, 59 to 89, and then Bama beat them 90-69. They lost to Texas A&M 69-53. So they've definitely struggled on the roads, particularly offensively. Their offense, like, look at it, 51, 56, 65, 59, 69, 53 are the outputs offensively on the road. And they gave up 63, which isn't a lot of points, but still lost that game by 12. 74, not a lot of points, but still lost that game by a significant margin. 68, that one was a lot closer. 89-90, and then 69 to Texas A&M, a team that does not score a lot of buckets themselves. But, Auburn wants to be in the area of that Florida Bama situation where they can hold this team under 70 but score north of 85, right? That's what Auburn wants this outcome to look like. Can Auburn duplicate that sort of situation? Or they can get into a Tennessee situation, scoring mid 70s while only giving up 56 points. Those are the things that Auburn is going to need to try to look at to be able to do in this game. And can they hold this Georgia team that does not score the ball particularly well in the low 60s or below? I think that's the target here for Auburn, to be able to do that in this game. When you're in here taking a look at all of the things that you're projecting that may want to happen in this game, maybe you want to put a little money where your mouth is on those projections. If you want to do that, you can head over to today's show sponsor. That's the folks over at Underdog Fantasy. New customers get a deposit, can deposit and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you use code RAPPORT. As new customers using code RAPPORT can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Make sure you head over there to Underdog Fantasy. We'll be looking at more of the projections for this game in particular in the pregame tomorrow. So make sure that you guys are tapped in with us there as we preview the matchup right before and see what's going to happen in this game with Auburn versus Georgia. Coach Bruce Pearl, the press conference is live right now on the channel, talked a little bit about this game. And one of the things that's been happening recently, you heard from Chad Baker-Mazara after the game, 2 games in a row, he has not been starting Vanderbilt and Alabama. Actually, 3 games in a row, he did not start Vandy, Alabama, and Arkansas. And he was deferential to the fact that, hey, we've been getting off to in Auburn good starts with Chris Moore in the starting lineup and him coming off of the bench. And, that was a thing that Coach Pearl said, hey, maybe they'll consider continuing to do with the matchups there with Georgia. Georgia, again, being a team that doesn't score a lot, can they do they want to bring some more scoring punch off of the bench to be able to go against that second line of Georgia? Chad Baker-Mazara had a really good game in that first game versus Georgia. With Janai Broome back in the starting lineup and they have that scoring available there, can they afford to bring Chad off of the bench to bring some of that scoring punch there and then close the game in traditional fashion as he has been, being a scorer and defensive guy? Maybe something to look out for as another difference in this game. Another thing that you heard Coach Pearl talk about in his presser was, they don't believe in holding back. So what they did strategically against Georgia is what they feel like is the best thing that they could have done against Georgia. Will those things continue to work? Now, they're going to look slightly different again because Janai Broome is in the game. game, you're going to expect Georgia to do a lot of doubling down on the post. They have bigs that can be able to compete with Janai Broome physically, but are they going to be able to compete with him as far as the quickness on the interior there? Asa Newell, of course, the talented freshman there for Georgia, he has the size to be able to bother Janai, and he has the physicality. Is Georgia going to say, fine, we're just going to play you straight up? They have Surreal they can bring off of the bench. He definitely has the physicality to be able to body up with Janai Broome. Are they going to say, we're just going to play it straight up with him there on the interior and then figure out how to defend elsewhere? And is Janai Broome, because he gets that one-on-one, going to be able to take advantage of it right there on the interior with Georgia? That's going to be something that you're going to have to look out for in this game as well, as far as a difference between the two games, because they didn't have to contend with Janai Broome on the interior. But again, they have the physical players on the interior to be able to do that. Are they going to be content with doing that? Or if Janai Broome starts to work that matchup a little bit, are they going to have to bring the double teams? And does that open things up more for the, again, made 12 threes in that game without Janai Broome there as the internal presence. A lot of that due to Dylan Cardwell working really hard on the offensive glass, getting some second chance opportunities, and really just Tahad Pettiford having the hot hand. He was just stepping into shots and making them there in Georgia. Can he find his three-point stroke again? Because he's been a little off. He and Miles Kelly been a little off. But you find these periods of time to time, like Miles Kelly's due for a breakout game here, man. I expected that breakout game to be against Arkansas. Maybe he'll find it again versus this Georgia team that's going to be tough on the interior. Maybe him being able to knock some shots down from the exterior, as well as Tahad Pettiford, will allow Janai Broome more space on the interior, more space for Chaney Johnson to get to some of those mid-range shots and be able to impact the game differently there on the interior. But because Georgia is likely going to have the bodies there on the interior, that's what makes them such a tough rebounding team to get in there, because they've got guys that play on the post. They've got size, they got physicality, strength in there. Auburn's really going to have to compete on the boards to make sure a poor shooting team, if we're being honest. I mean, let's take a look at the numbers here for Georgia. They are one of the better teams at turning teams over, but they're also a team that turns the ball over a bunch. Can Auburn kind of neutralize turnovers there in that game and turn them over and get out into transition? This is a game I think Auburn's going to want to play in transition a little bit more than what they typically do and get into more tempo. Georgia is one of the teams that has the slowest adjusted tempo rate in the conference. They want to play a half-court game, though they get a lot of steals. They just don't play at pace a lot. Can Auburn figure out how to speed this game up for Georgia by getting out in transition and getting away from Georgia's set defense and being able to play and get some fast break points? I'm going to be looking at that fast break point total for Auburn in this game as well. But when you look at efficiency, the adjusted efficiency on the road, worst 15 out of 16 in the conference for Georgia. They're just not shooting the ball particularly well. They're dead last in effective field goal percentage. They don't shoot free throws particularly well, even though they get to the free throw line a decent amount. Foul trouble for Auburn, a little bit less of a concern with Janai Broome in there because you got some minutes from him, but you do need to make sure that you're keeping your bigs, Dylan Caldwell, Chaney Johnson, out of foul trouble so they can play maximum minutes out there and contend with those bigs there from Georgia. How many minutes is Jaheim Hudson going to get in this game and be able to contribute there on the interior? Again, because you have more bodies there, you do have a little bit of flexibility, and you've got Hudson, who played, again, a decent game versus Georgia in that first one. Can he come in and contribute and get you some really tough minutes there on that one? But again, this team in Georgia hasn't been good at scoring the basketball. Auburn needs to rely on their defense in this game, I think, to be able to come out with the victory. Last time it was defense and a combination of defense and really good shooting from the exterior. Because you haven't been shooting the ball as well, lockdown defense, getting out there in transition, I think is going to be a big recipe, a big key to this game for Auburn, and having the depth to be able to compete on the interior and keep Georgia off of the glass. But I want to hear from you all. What are your thoughts on this game? Who are the players that you're hoping can step up in this one for Auburn? If you're a Georgia fan, what are your thoughts on this? Come in here, let me know about that. Before you get out of here, though, make sure you give us a thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, share the content with somebody. We'll be back at you with our pregame tomorrow and a watch party as we look at final thoughts there on Auburn versus Georgia. But again, we'll be back at you with that tomorrow. Until the next time, and as always, War Eagle.